A scientist in Japan points to a bowl. The dog looks at her, then at the bowl, then races over. Inside, a treat, good dog. She does it again, points to a different bowl. The dog runs. Nothing there. Third round. She points to a bowl that definitely has food. She knows it. The dog knows it. And the dog just stands there, staring at her. 34 dogs went through this exact test. 34 made the same call. Not most, every single one. We'll come back to that moment. But first, I need to walk you through what was really happening inside those dogs' minds, because it's stranger than most people realize, and definitely not what the internet will tell you. If you type "can dogs sense bad people," you'll find 1,000 articles screaming yes. Dogs have a sixth sense. They read energy. They just know. And look, some of that is based on real science. But it skips the fascinating part. Your dog isn't psychic. They aren't seeing auras. What they're actually doing, honestly more impressive. Your dog isn't a psychic. They're a detective. You felt this, right? Someone walks into your home. Your dog doesn't bark, doesn't growl, just hangs back, watches. Maybe leans a little closer to your leg, and something inside you whispers, "Yeah, I feel it too." That feeling isn't magic. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what your dog is tracking when it happens. And I think it'll change how you watch them meet every new person from now on. So what's really going on when your dog sizes someone up? Think about the last time your pup met a stranger. Within the first 2 or 3 seconds before you've even finished saying nice to meet you, your dog has already launched a multi-layer assessment that would put most humans to shame. And it's not one thing, it's several things firing at once, so fast it looks like pure instinct. First, body language. Not the face, the whole body. How their weight shifts when they enter, whether their hands are stiff or relaxed, whether they move toward the dog in a straight line or curve. Dogs are insanely sensitive to motion patterns. A tense, unpredictable mover registers completely differently than someone who's loose and easy. Your dog spotted that before the person even made eye contact with you. Second, scent. A dog's nose is pulling chemical data you cannot perceive. Changes in human body chemistry, nervousness, aggression, fear produce volatile organic compounds. Your dog absolutely smells those. They aren't diagnosing someone's soul. They're reading real-time chemical weather. And then the layer most people miss entirely. Your dog is watching how the person interacts with you. The tone, the body language between you two. Whether you tense up or relax. Your dog has studied your patterns for years. A disruption in those patterns is information. None of these channels alone is enough, but running together, body, scent, social observation, all in the first few seconds. It creates something that looks from the outside like your dog just knows. They don't just know, they're working. They don't just know, they're working. Now let's go back to Japan. In 2015, researcher Akiko Takaoka wanted to test something specific. Do dogs automatically follow a pointing finger? Or do they actually evaluate the person doing the pointing? Here's the setup. A dog sits in a room with 2 containers. A person points at one. If there's food inside, the dog finds it. Great. Trust established. Next round, same person points at the other container. Dog runs over. Empty. That person has now lied in the only language this dog fully understands: gesture. Round 3. The person points at a container that does have food. And this is the part that stops me. The dog looks at the person, looks at the container, and doesn't move. Not because they lost interest in food. Not because they're confused. Because they've decided this particular human is not reliable. One broken promise. That's all it took. And here's the detail that elevates this from interesting to stunning. In a follow-up, Takaoka swapped in a brand new person for round 3. Same setup, same container, new human pointing. The dogs followed immediately. They hadn't lost faith in pointing. They hadn't become generally paranoid. They had filed a complaint about one specific individual and moved on. Takaoka told the BBC she was surprised at how quickly the dogs, her words, devalue the reliability of a human. I love that phrase. Your dog is basically running a credit score on everyone they meet. Because honestly, they kind of are. John Bradshaw from the University of Bristol, who wasn't involved in the study, made another important point. Dogs crave predictability. When someone behaves inconsistently, it doesn't just confuse them, it stresses them. Your dog isn't judging that person morally. They're protecting themselves from chaos. And that distinction matters. Your dog doesn't have a word for trust, but they can lose it in a single gesture, and they remember exactly who caused it. Let me give you something different now, because that study was about how dogs evaluate strangers. This one is about what happens when someone wrongs you. Same year, same university, different lab. Hitomi Chijiwa and her team set up a scenario where a dog watched their owner try to open a container and ask, a nearby stranger for help. In one version, the stranger helped. In another, the stranger deliberately turned away, looked at the floor, refused. A third person just sat there, neutral. After the interaction, both the actor and the neutral person offered the dog a treat. Same treat, same time. Nobody looked at the dog. They wanted to eliminate subtle cueing. When the stranger had helped their owner, the dogs took treats from both people. Fine, everyone's cool. But when the stranger had refused to help, the dogs would not take food from that person. They walked past the offered treat past food and went to the neutral stranger instead. Let me repeat that. A dog turned down a free treat from someone who had been unkind to their person. Not to them, to their person. In a situation with zero direct benefit to the dog. No one fought over the dog's food. No one touched the dog. The dog was just watching, and they made a choice. The researchers called this third-party effective evaluation. It had never been documented in a non-primate species before. And here's the kicker. The dogs didn't reward helpfulness. They punished unhelpfulness. The helpful stranger got no bonus. The unhelpful one got shunned. Researchers call this a negativity bias. Dogs weigh bad behavior more heavily than good, which, if you think about it for even a second, makes perfect evolutionary sense. Knowing who to avoid keeps you alive. Knowing who to thank is a luxury. Your dog doesn't care who's generous, but they are keeping a very specific list of who refuse to help you. And they don't forget. Okay, one more, and this one genuinely stopped me. A team at the University of Vienna wanted to know something that sounds almost absurd. Can dogs tell the difference between a person who is wrong and a person who is lying? They tested to 160 dogs. Here's the setup. A person hides a treat in one of two buckets. Then a second person moves the treat to the other bucket in one condition. The first person watches the switch happen so they know the treat moved. In the other condition, the first person leaves the room during the switch. They genuinely don't know. Then the first person comes back and points to the original bucket, the empty one. Now from the dog's perspective, the instruction is identical. Someone is pointing at the wrong bucket. But here's what happened. When the person had been in the room and seen the switch, meaning they were pointing to the wrong bucket on purpose, dogs were significantly more likely to ignore them. They went to the correct bucket on their own. But when the person had genuinely missed the switch when they were wrong, but not lying, the dogs followed their pointing more often. They gave the benefit of the doubt to the person who didn't know better. Let that land. The implication is that dogs aren't just tracking behavior. They may be tracking intent. Not this person pointed wrong, but this person pointed wrong and they knew it. The researchers found something else too. Breed mattered. Retrievers, border collies, and other breeds historically selected for cooperative work with humans were better at detecting deception. Terriers bred for independent work, chasing things down holes, making their own decisions, were the only breed group that behaved like human toddlers, following the liar more often in the intentional condition, which honestly made me laugh. If your terrier trusts everyone, that's not gullibility. That's centuries of breeding saying, "I'll check it out myself, thanks." Somewhere in the last 10,000 years of sleeping beside us, guarding our doors, watching us interact with every person who walked in, dogs didn't just learn to read what we do. They started reading why. Now I promised I'd be honest with you, and this is where I keep the promise. In 2025, just last year, a researcher named Hoi Lam, Jim at the same Kyoto University published a study that should have confirmed everything I just told you. 40 pet dogs watched humans act, either generous or selfish with food toward another dog. Then the dogs got to choose who to approach. The result? Nothing. No preference. Not for the generous person, not against the selfish one. Even after direct experience, the dogs just didn't seem to care. Jim herself was surprised. If you made it this far, drop a like on my channel for the dogs who've been watching out for us all along. I want to hear about the time your dog decided they didn't like someone, and whether you eventually found out they were right. Tell me in the comments. I read everyone. Time's up for this video. See you with a new one.